So, Carrie Gordon back to talk to you a little bit today about selective eating. Selective eating can be a real challenge, and you may have watched some of our other videos about cooking healthy food and some nutrition lessons. And if you're in the situation where someone that you love, someone that you're cooking for or cooking with at home, has a really narrow palate and isn't amenable to eating lots of different kinds of food, it can be really a hang-up. It can be a disappointment. It can be really frustrating. It can lead to some real struggles at mealtime and real arguments. And I think it's therefore worth just a bit of a mention in the collection of all this other material that is really focused more on nutrition and cooking. Selective eating, when you're talking about really young kids, can actually be a normal developmental stage. So it's not that uncommon that infants may go from being willing to accept lots of different types of baby food, different types of fruits and vegetables. And then as they get through the toddler years, they can have a phase where they can be really selective and refuse foods that they've liked. And it can be confusing and frustrating. I think one thing that's really important to keep in mind is that you want to really try, if you can, not to make too big of a deal out of it, and to really focus most of your energy on reinforcing the positive behaviors, the things that you want to see happen more often. Because as you may have heard from your pediatrician or family doc when you've discussed issues like this around kids, is that kids like attention, and if the attention is positive attention, great, but if it's negative attention, if it turns into a way to get your attention, even if it's a debate or a battle, sometimes it can reinforce the behavior. So what I mean is, at dinner time, really getting into a big debate with kids about what they won't eat, or trying to get into a struggle, when the truth is, it's really hard to force kids to eat something they don't want to eat. And unfortunately, sometimes when this becomes more of a perpetuated process that kids aren't outgrowing, it can be tied also into anxiety. And so the idea of trying a food that a child might not like, or taking a bite of something that they think they're not going to like the taste of, it can be really stress-provoking. And then the added pressure of a parent or a loved one really trying to push them to eat it, it can almost make it less likely that they'll try it. And so I was just going to share a few techniques that I've noticed to be helpful with some of my patient families, or even doing the cooking classes that I've seen sort of happening with kids right there live during the cooking class. Is first of all, letting kids sort of get their hands on things, and even if they're not willing to take a bite of something the first time they make it, sometimes having you include them in the preparation of foods, the foods that you want them to eat, especially over time, they may decide to take a bite of something. And it can be really common to involve kids in doing things like making cookies, or baking a cake, or frosting a cake. But it's not as common for me to hear that a lot of parents are getting their kids to participate in things like helping them put together a salad, or mix up a salad dressing, or prep a vegetable. And those types of things may help you get your child to decide to take a bite of something. You really don't want sort of selective eating to become part of their identity. It might make it more stick, like, oh, that's, Sally, she's my picky eater. Her brother Tommy, he'll eat anything. Because that can just become part of who they are, and they can hold on to that. You want to really focus on the things they can control and the behaviors that you like. So if Sally, for example, one night agrees to take a bite of a cucumber, and even if she doesn't like it, she took a bite of it, she tried it, she was willing to try it, really kind of focusing on encouraging those positive things, and saying, like, I'm so proud of you for trying that even though you didn't like it. Letting kids know what are the options if they don't like something. So say you bite into something, it doesn't taste good. Do they have to chew it and swallow it? Is it okay for them to spit it into a napkin? And just kind of move along with the rest of the meal without making it a big deal. I think once you do introduce something to someone who has a tendency to be selective and they like it, you want to keep it as a regular part of the rotation of the things they're eating, because they can just phase out of it again, and that can be really discouraging. And I think also trying to think about the textures they like or the flavors they like. Sometimes kids don't like things that are mushy, and they don't like a cooked vegetable, but they might really like a raw, crunchy vegetable. Sometimes kids who like things like fruit but don't eat vegetables might be a little bit more amenable to eating things that are sort of wet and crunchy and sweet. For example, like a sweet pepper that's not cooked, or a cucumber, or even raw carrots. And those are going to be just as nutritious for us as having them cooked, and you can have them at dinner time that way. Pairing a food that you know they like with something that you want them to try. For example, a kid who likes peanut butter but isn't eating fruits and vegetables, trying some peanut butter on a slice of an apple. If they like ranch dressing with their pretzels, try a sliced carrot with some ranch dressing. So pairing those things together, letting them know why you picked it. Well, I know you like, things that are crunchy or things that are sweet, and this is really crunchy and sweet. And so those are all little techniques that can sometimes help. And just trying to do things in a way that isn't too pressure-driven, that is very reward-based for the things you know they can control, and to just be patient with them and work one day at a time.